Hello, buddy. It's me, Game Penguin 21, and today, oh yay, we get to do a good old classic video here. So with me doing some more editing for other people now, I am very strange on how my upload schedule is going to be like looking forward, but considering the fact that I can knock out some of their videos fairly quickly, and the fact that my content is just practically automatic at this point because I somehow have a backlog now, we're going to take a look at a couple of different things here. At least in the course of trying to do some stuff that maybe I should cover alongside other things. But today, I think we're going to be taking a look at a very interesting and very small video that I've managed to find here that is, I think, was covered by a person a couple weeks back, and with the new Nintendo lawsuit updates, this kind of gives me an excuse to do two birds with one stone kind of thing. Because if you haven't heard about the recent Nintendo news, I'm going to probably be going over that in this video alongside the whole thing of quote-unquote, the problem is not Nintendo. So we're going to be taking a look at that and also comparing it to recent events. Again, this video was released a couple weeks back, but at the same time, it's still about Nintendo, and talking about Nintendo in this context is probably worth talking about. So yeah, apparently this video is called The Problem Isn't Nintendo, quote, It's Us. And again, I always love it when people decide to blame the consumer for the problems that the company presents, i.e. price increases, price gouging, and, you know, all that other good anti-consumer stuff, or quote-unquote anti-consumer, because Reforged Gaming somehow hates that word, even though, you know, it's very much a thing that exists, but we get ahead of ourselves. Let's get into, apparently, why Nintendo is not the problem, but it's us that's the problem for whatever reason. And of course, if you like what it is that I do and support me in any way, shape, or form, the like and subscribe is always enough. Links down to everything in the description below. Please, I would like to get some form of stuff. I have a Ko-Fi. I stream here every Sunday at 12 p.m. EST, both on Twitch and on YouTube. Come by, say hi, and maybe throw me some shekels my way. With all that being said, let's get started.
All right. We need to talk about something that's honestly draining the fun out of being a Nintendo fan. Not the games, not the consoles. I'm talking about the discourse, the online chaos, the war zone that fires up every time someone shares an opinion about Nintendo. It's getting ridiculous, right? You say something positive and boom, shill. You critique a game or price, suddenly you're a fake fan. There's no middle ground anymore. Just two sides, yelling louder and louder, trying to drown each other out. And if you're in between, forget it. You're invisible.
Okay, so I wanted to let him speak out there because that's not entirely true. I, for one, am kind of against Nintendo in most respects, but I can see why some people like what it is that they do. It's just that, in my opinion, a lot of the stuff that they do, other people have done bigger, better, and somehow, you know, apparently more profitable, at least in terms of what Pocket Pair has been doing. And the thing then, the problem is that Nintendo is just overdoing and overstepping their boundaries. This is something that Nintendo has done at least a few times throughout history, if you kind of recognize as to why. Why? Well, if you remember back during, I guess, the PS2 era, the PlayStation 1 era, when Sony basically came in, and they originally wanted to work with Nintendo. Nintendo managed to, you know, get out of that contract, which was probably a good idea because Sony probably would have done it. But they created one of their biggest rivals. And one of, if not the biggest things, is that Nintendo technically, they didn't lose the generation, but they came in and they were, you know, big and like the thing that they said that they couldn't fail, or at least people said that they couldn't. And overall, they ended up doing so because they got overconfident. And then Nintendo just decided, we're going to just make our own thing in our own little bubble for the rest of the days because, well, we ended up losing. And that seems to be the only way that they've been staying alive. But you can critique things. You can, like, basically make that. And you're basically talking about fanboyism. Because that's what you are. You're a Nintendo fanboy. I always talk about this channel and the fanboy mentality, and that's one of the big things. If you are having this whole fanboy mentality, take a step back, stop what you're doing, and think about what you actually said and how you could word it better to maybe be more middling. Some people might say that, but again, those people you really shouldn't listen to.
When the Switch 2 dropped, that divide exploded. It should have been a celebration. Instead, we got rage, outrage, and never-ending wave of hot takes, most of them louder than they are thoughtful. I miss when we could just talk about Nintendo, argue a little, sure, but still have fun. Now it feels like everything is a battlefield, and nobody's actually listening.
Well, I mean, that's because you're not. If you're actually thinking about some of the stuff that people are saying in terms of like, oh, I don't really like the price and I think that the price is a little bit too expensive, yeah, those are very specific and pointed critiques in how to improve them. There is those discourse and there is those people out there, but you're on the side that's basically saying, well, Nintendo didn't do anything wrong, therefore they shouldn't be critiqued or anything. And what's also dumb is that you're just now more invested in the actual thing. You're more invested into it. You basically have staked your entire life onto what is essentially something that you probably in the grand scheme of things shouldn't have invested a lot of your time into. Not to say that that's bad. I mean, again, I am a gaming channel and I do play a lot of video games, but at the same time, you're too invested. And that's where the whole fanboy mentality comes in, and why I continuously talk about people like Harmon Smith. Because, yeah, the whole twisting of the narratives and that people try to do, where they pick up a thesaurus and try to sound more smarticles than they probably think that they are, or even know that they are, it just ends up coming off as fake in some ways. Only a minute in, I've already been recording for 6 minutes. Jesus.
And here's the part that really hurts: the joy of gaming is being replaced with tribalism. So here's the big question: is it still possible to love Nintendo out loud without being labeled, attacked, or dismissed?
Maybe, but so long as you're able to critique them normally in terms of I really don't like the prices and actually like back yourself up with that, yeah, kind of. Again, the whole problem that people have with Nintendo is just that it's overpriced, it's under-delivering, and a lot of the stuff other people have been doing better. So let's take the Pal World stuff, for instance. I said we were going to talk about it, so let's talk about it here. See, one of the big things that Pal World has been going on for a while now is just that Pal World has done something that Nintendo hasn't. They've improved on the gameplay of the whole Mon-type genre, or at least that's what people have said. And yeah, I can attest to that. That was actually cool. I've come back and played it, and I haven't actually, I never really liked I liked the original turn-based combat and stuff of the Pokemon games, but I never really finished them. However, with Pal World, I actually feel like I'm accomplishing something or something like that. But again, it's different things, and I like different games now, so take that with a grain of salt. But overall, the recent updates that we've had with Pal World is that Nintendo is just being kind of a dick, because they've just decided that Pal World is the enemy because they were more popular, or they outsold them because their stuff was under-delivering, and Pal World just did what they did, but better. So that's one of the biggest critiques there. But people will look at that and be like, oh, well, you're just shilling for something that clearly uses a bunch of bad shit and stuff. And I don't know the difference between, like, taking inspiration from and basically ripping off and blah, blah, blah. Like, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, right, the problem that a lot of people have with this whole tribalism thing is that you're just too invested into it. You really should just take a step back, realize that what you're talking about doesn't matter a lot in the grand scheme of things, and that you should put that energy towards something else, something more productive, something more better, if that makes any sense, I guess.
Let's unpack what's really going on and why this mess is hurting everyone involved. Here's the truth a lot of people seem to forget. You can love Nintendo and still call them out. That doesn't make you a shill. It doesn't make you a hater. It makes you normal. It makes you someone who actually cares about the games, the experience, and the community. We've reached a point where if you don't pick a side, full loyalty or full outrage, the internet decides for you. And in the process, all the gray areas, all the thoughtful takes, get buried under.
I mean, I guess, but then you just reiterate and make yourself clear that, like, no, you're putting words in my mouth. Stop putting words in my mouth. And just keep reiterating to those people. Or do the better thing and just not listen to them. This kind of reminds me of the whole people complaining about the whole skill ceiling and skill floor of Battlefield 6 that I covered a couple weeks back, where it's like, oh yeah, I'm getting completely and utterly flamed by these whole bunch of fuckers. And I'm like, don't listen to them. That just kind of make sense, you know? Don't make them, you know, give them what they want, i.e. your reaction. Just, in the end, it just makes sense for that. So, you know, don't do that.
The noise. People act like being critical means you're rooting for Nintendo to fail, or that enjoying their games means you're ignoring their flaws. Neither is true. In fact, the healthiest fandoms are the ones where people can discuss both the highs and lows without fear of backlash. But we're losing that fast. Why? Because nuance doesn't trend. Rage does. Hot takes do. The more extreme your opinion, the more traction it gets. And social media is built to reward that. We should be able to say, this game is amazing, but this decision sucks, without it turning into a war. We should be able to hold two thoughts at once. But in today's climate, even that feels controversial.
I feel like you're coming off as disingenuous in this, and that's why I wanted to respond to this. What you're saying is not wrong, and in fact, in a lot of ways, it's kind of correct. But at the same time, the way that you're coming off like this, you're coming off as like, you know more and you do better than that. I don't never come off like that, or at least I try not to. If I ever do, it's because I'm trying to make a point, because the point that you're making, to me, sounds like you're just wording it wrong. So here's what, like, again, I agree. You should be able to keep your own, like, opinions and stuff at once. But the problem with Nintendo fans, and the problem with the fanboy mentality that I continuously talk about, is that it doesn't matter to them what the company does. They will still buy them. They will still support them, despite all of these decisions. The end of the day, what you say doesn't mean jack diddly shit if you still, you know, buy and support the products. Some people, like, that's all right. If it's their job to review it, then sure, I guess that'll be the way that it is. But when you're listening to people who do things like games journalism for a living, they're just one perspective. It's very annoying to some people to be preached at, and that's what I feel like this is. It's like a preaching of some kind. Also, can you please, like, get to the point as to what the point of this video is and why the problem isn't Nintendo when it very clearly is Nintendo because, again, of the slap lawsuits, all of the price gouging and price increases that they are doing, pushing up to $80 games, by the way, $80 to $90 games, by the way. Again, that was all Nintendo. Not that Nintendo didn't start the price increases, because I still blame PlayStation for that, but Nintendo pushes it past a point of basically dominoing itself to the point of where Xbox thought, hey, Nintendo's doing $80 games, and they seem to be doing successfully. Why don't we try that? And then they just decided not to, because, you know, people were like, this is bullshit. But that's the problem. Nintendo got away with it. Nintendo was the one that was able that pushed through with the actual thing. And remember, they've said in interviews that the reason for the price increases has nothing to do with the tariffs, or at least it didn't when it was talked about initially. It's just really, really stupid how people will apologize for what Nintendo does. And they really shouldn't.
Let's talk pricing, because this is one of the biggest flashpoints and one of the most misunderstood. Every time Nintendo announces a price, whether it's a console, a controller, or a $50 amiibo, the internet blows up. They're gouging us. Greedy Nintendo strikes again. It's a constant storm of outrage, and to be fair, some of it feels justified. $50 for a single amiibo? That's a hard pill to swallow. But here's the thing. A lot of people aren't looking at the full picture. In the US, tariffs on imported goods from places like China and Japan are having a real impact on prices across the gaming industry. And while Microsoft and Sony raised prices on their
These have been completely and utterly debunked, at least for the most part. Now, while it could do something on the physical side of games, they're also increasing the prices on digital goods as well, which is the main points of contention that a lot of people have been talking about. Saying, oh, they're just increasing the prices across the board for like physical and digital products. Like, it sucks. And I've already talked about this. They originally said, like, oh, we're not going to increase the prices due to tariffs. We're not going to be bigger doing the tariff thing. Like, you get why people are upset with that, right? You're taking out the full nuances of the person's argument. Where was this originally back when you were making the point of like, oh, there's no gray area, or they're taking out the specifics and stuff? There's specifics to the argument, and there's the area of this is a problem, here's the specific reason as to why. You're just taking that and generalizing it. Don't do that if you're trying to make an argument. There's a reason for people's outrage. We don't want the price increases because it's not worth it to a lot of people, which is like their own opinion and because of how things are becoming more expensive and yada, yada, yada. But, like, you're not giving the specific reasons as to why. You're just generalizing it and saying, oh, they're just upset about the price increases. And it's a price increases that is happening across the entire industry. That doesn't make it good, and that doesn't justify the price increases at all. Because I remember back in the day, right, in the 2000s, it was celebrated when the prices would drop. It was celebrated when they could sell like on a sale and stuff, when you weren't seen as cheap or a broke boy for shopping smarter when you're for your entertainment stuff. You get why that's dumb, right? And why we don't like to listen to the people who say the price increases don't matter. They do. Anyway.
consoles, Nintendo chose a slightly different path. While they did raise the prices of the Switch 1 consoles, Nintendo is holding the Switch 2 price at $449.99. To keep their newest console's price competitive, Nintendo has chosen to absorb those tariff costs into accessories as well. And that's where the backlash is coming from. The outrage over $50 amiibos isn't just about greed. It's a result of the console staying the same price while the peripherals take the hit. And look at the Kirby Air Riders amiibo. In the US.
But that's still bad. You get why that is still bad. It doesn't matter what happens around it saying, oh, they're increasing the price of this, they're increasing the price of that. Like, that's still bad. Completely. Oh, but they're not increasing the Switch 2 price. They increased the price of everything else. And that's worse. And it also, again, doesn't account for why the digital goods are also increasing in price, which is something that, again, we've seen across the board. The digital goods have no overhead. They have no, physical thing. They don't need to be manufactured. They are just code that you can get. But you're saying, oh, no. It's fine because they're increasing the prices of everything else to absorb that tariff cost. The tariff cost on their, digital goods, it's just, you get why it's bad, right? And you get why people seem to be upset, saying, oh, they shouldn't be increasing the prices because they're greedy. It's like, oh, they're not greedy. They're increasing the price of all this stuff to absorb the tariff costs. This is in spite of the fact that a law firm guy, to go back to the Pal World thing, they basically looked out and said, hey, they're not going to be able to recoup a lot of the costs of their Pal World lawsuit because they are spending a fuck ton on that lawsuit, at least according to someone who did some interesting math, right? They're losing a lot of money on that lawsuit. even if they win, they wouldn't be able to recoup the lawyering costs, at least according to, again, basic adjustments for possible budgetary reasons. So I think that that's somehow terrible, and it even makes more dumb and stupid sense that they're increasing all the prices to fund their whole legal battle that doesn't even need to be a legal battle in the first place, but they're still doing it because they're Nintendo when they suck dick. But, like, anyway. But you get why that's upsetting, and that's why that's stupid, right? Saying, oh, this right here, they're not increasing the price of this. They're increasing the price of everything that's around this thing, but they're not greedy because they're not increasing the price of this one particular thing. What about all the other stuff that they're increasing the price of? And stop glossing over as to the specifics as to why. Because it just doesn't, it's just stupid.
It's $49.99. In Europe and parts of Asia, the exact same figure is selling for around $39.99. That's not a coincidence. That's a direct reflection of how tariffs are impacting U.S. consumers more than others. So yeah, it stings. But ignoring that cause and effect relationship turns economic reality into nothing more than clickbait outrage. Let me give you a real example.
Okay, how about ignoring this, object of reality? Again, to go back to the whole Pal World lawsuit, they are spending a fuck ton on lawyers. And, again, a person who is a lawyer came out and did a calculations approximately that they wouldn't even be able to recoup the cost of the lawyers for this lawsuit, right? So doesn't that mean that they're greedy because they want to basically have a monopoly on a specific thing? And that's even besides the fact of some of their other lawsuits where they have gotten rid of full-on emulation software, which is but also where they basically had one dude and he's basically going to be paying back Nintendo for the rest of his fucking life. Like, you get why they're seen as greedy and fucking awful, right?
Something that hit me personally. You guys know I absolutely love Donkey Kong Bonanza. It's hands down one of the most fun, polished, genuinely joyful Nintendo experiences I've had in years. I called it the Switch 2's first must-play, and I stand by that. But then came the DLC announcement, DK Island plus Emerald Rush, $20. And honestly, it didn't sit right with me. The DLC adds a new challenge mode and a hub world. But here's the thing, the DK Island content feels like it should have been in the base game all along, especially as post-credits material. It's not terrible, but for $20, it felt a little thin and left me underwhelmed. Now, can I love the base game and be disappointed in the DLC? Absolutely. That's how normal people think. I'm not bashing the entire game. I'm just pointing out a part that didn't feel worth the extra money, and that's okay. This is what nuance looks like. It's not blind loyalty. It's not rage. It's honesty.
Yeah, that's okay. But again, guys, Nintendo's not the problem. I'm going to give this massive critique of this should have been endgame content. Why is it being sold for $20? But Nintendo's not the problem. No. Nintendo's not the problem. They didn't just cut off the ending DLC for 2 games, by the way. Not just Donkey Kong Bonanza. Let me give you another real-world example. They cut out from the ZA Pokemon games from the beta, which was there. They cut that out and put that into endgame DLC, at least according to what other people have been saying, from what I heard. Oh boy, that's totally, not greedy at all. Not at all. Just, it's over $100 of content that's, just there. And they cut it out, and you have to make 2 different purchases to purchase the one thing that should have been full in the process. But don't worry, guys. Nintendo was not greedy. Nintendo is not the problem, despite the fact that they have, again, given slap lawsuits to people and basically stolen their entire livelihoods for measly just trying to enjoy the game that they did. Now, not only did they shut down, charity events, or they shut this down or that down because of reasons. They're not the problem. Nah. We're the problem because we critique out Nintendo and hold them accountable for their shitty actions that they do. I think we're done here, right? I think you get my point. The whole problem that I have with this video is that it's basically saying one thing of like, oh, my opinions are nuanced and there's a lot of gray area that a lot of people aren't talking about. And then tries to do that and gives the most like lukewarm milk toast opinion on it. And then says, but we're the problem because, people don't have any of the nuances to it. When he refuses to give any of the nuances to anything that he's been doing. He doesn't explain as to why people are upset or gives the specific reason. He just says people are upset because they're increases the prices, but there's a reason for that. It's because of tariffs, even though Nintendo said it's not really because of tariffs, So, right? It just baffles me how Nintendo fanboys continuously do that. But anyway, I guess to finally round this out with the whole Palworld lawsuit update, they had finally been denied their patents, which gives them a massive blow to it. It doesn't mean that Palworld has won yet, even though it really should be that, because in my opinion, you shouldn't really be able to. You can copyright code, like the way that you have it written, but you can't copyright, say, the process of what the code does, because you can copy code verbatim and have it do the same thing, but it shouldn't really be copyrightable, at least in what I think, because it should be under the same thing as recipes. There's ways to do it. It's all really weird. Anyway, that's not important. I think at the end of the day, it's just really fucking stupid that this whole lawsuit's been happening. But good to see that Palworld is still fighting and that Palworld still got the goods and, is actually sticking it to the side of Nintendo. And also, apparently, that the U.S. is now reviewing a lot of Nintendo's patents as well, so we'll hopefully give some more updates on that. But I think that'll about do it for this episode of I Yell Into a Microphone about a Nintendo fanboy who clearly needs to get more of a perspective about people and understand as to why, give more specifics, and get into that actual gray area, rather than trying to be apologizing for Nintendo's shitty actions. My name is GamePenguin21. If you like what this I do and want to be on the way, share, perform, like, subscribe, but always, not links down to everything in the description below. And a peace.